This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi Glatstein. Maseches Berachos, Daf Yud Amud Aleph, 4 lines from the top. We're about to learn one of the most fascinating Gemaras in Shas. Unbelievable Gemara. Hanu Bar Yoni. There were certain Bar Yonim. What are Bar Yonim? Rashi says Pritzim. They were openly antithetical to the Torah. They were openly callous to the Torah. Some learned they were bandits. Some learned they were minim. They were apikarsim. We're dealing with Rishaim. These Bar Yonim were Rishaim, wicked people. Dahavu b'shivavusid Meir. They were in the neighborhood of Meir. Dahavu kamatsaru le'tuva, and they were really bothering Meir. They were bothering Meir. Meir, of course, was the Gadol Adar. The Gemara in Eruvin says on Daf Yigimel Beis that everybody knows about Meir, that ein b'doiroi kamaisai. There's nobody like him, and they were bothering him. And everybody knows that the worst thing you could do in this world is to bother a Talmid Chacham. The Gemara says, don't start up with a Talmid Chacham. They bite like a snake, they sting like a scorpion. Right? The Gemara says, Kol Talmid Chacham she'eino noikim v'noiter kenachash, eino Talmid Chacham. So you have to be very careful. And they were bothering Reb Meir. And the Gemara says, Have a kaboy, Reb Meir rachami ilavayu ki hecha dilamusa. Reb Meir davened for them that they should die. And Meir down, and they should die. Now look carefully at the words of the Gemara. The Gemara says that have a kaboy Meir rachame ilavayu ki hecha dilamisa. Meir davened that Hashem should have mercy on them that they should die. Very interesting expression, right? Kaboy Meir rachame ilavayu. Meir asked for mercy on them that they should die. What kind of rachamim is that? That's rachamim. The Gemara should say have a kaboy Meir Dilamesa, Meir daven that they should die. What's this language? Meir daven for mercy on them in order that they should die. So okay, we begin. I want to point out from the Noid Yehuda. That Noid Yehuda, of course, he wrote on Maseches Berachos the Tzlach. The Noid Yehuda is medayik. He says Hadavar Yifla. The lashon boi rachamei ilayu mashma shaleim bikesh rachamim. The language of the Gemara sounds like that he's asking for mercy. So how could the Gemara then say that they should die? That's not rachamim. It's the opposite of rachamim. It's din. He's being ma'or din on them. And what does it mean, so that they should die? It should say, he davened that they die. Okay. Says the Noid Yehuda an amazing thing. Reb Meir saw that these Rishaim were Rishaim Gemurim. They were 100,000% wicked. And he saw that why were they living? Why did they have success in this world? That God was paying them back in this world for all their little mitzvahs they may have done, so that when they get to Olam Haba, Hashem doesn't have to reward them. Because we know there's a concept of Meshalem, L'Sainav, Mipanav Lahavidai. Hashem gives any reward to the Risham in this world, so that in the next world they have nothing left. Right? Meshalem, L'Sainav, Al Panav Lahavidai. So Rav Meir sees that these Risham who are Risham Gemurim, and Hashem is extending their life in order to give them all their Olam Haba in this world. So Rav Meir daven for Rachamim that Hashem should take them away now, so that they should be able to still have Olam Haba. Okay, so ultimately Rav Meir is not a harsh guy. Rav Meir was really davening for Rachamim. It wasn't that these Risham are talking in the middle of the drasha. Let them know. Hashem wanted. He was a very nice guy. He didn't want them to lose their share in Olam Haba. So therefore, this way Hashem will take them away now, and they'll be able to continue to have their share in Olam Haba. Okay. Amrole Bruryah debisu. So Bruryah, the wife of Meir, said to him. Now who's Bruryah? Bruryah, a famous woman. If you look in Rav Nisan Gaon on the top left-hand side of the page, Bruryah was the daughter of Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion. Bruryah was the daughter of Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion. By the way, Al Pi Kabbalah, the Or Chaim HaKadosh brings down that when Shechem ben Chamor violated Dinah, that produced Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion. The Or Chaim HaKadosh writes on Chumash. He even says it's marumas in the Psukim. Rachavas Yadayim. V'hinei eretz Rachavas Yadayim. Rachavas is Rashi Tevois Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion. Okay. But in any event, Bruryah was the daughter of Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion, and Bruryah was a very learned woman. And the Gemara says in Masechta Tamid that the following. The Gemara says in Masechta Talmud that Bruryah, the daughter of Chanina ben Tradion, used to learn 300 halachos in one day from 300 different rabbanim. Okay? So she was a milumedas, she was a very learned woman, and she is now going to discuss Rav Meir's practice with her husband. Rav Meir davened that these bar yonim should die. So Amrle Bruryah de Bisu, my daitach, what do you hold? Why are you davening that they should die? Is it because Mishum dechsev yitamu chataim min haaretz? Because David HaMelech said the chataim should disappear from the world? Miksiv chaitim? It doesn't say sinners. Chataim ksiv. It says sins. So David HaMelech never davened that wicked people should die. David HaMelech davened sin should die. Sin. David, right? What's the difference between chataim and chaitim? Chaitim are people who sin. Chaitim. It's a shame davar. It's a noun. Right? It's a description. It's a title. What do you do for a living? I'm a chaiteh. I'm a sinner. Not me particularly. I try not to. But let's say you ask a Russia, right? Chaitim. So a chaiteh is someone who sins. A chait is a sin. David HaMelech didn't say yitamu chaitim or rishaim. He said yitamu chataim. Sin. V'oid, and also shafal l'sefer dekra. She said scroll down to the end of the pasuk. U'rishaim oid einam. The wicked will be no longer. Kivan di yitamu chataim. Once sin has vanished, u'rishaim oid einam. There won't be sin anymore. So therefore her point is, don't daven the wicked should die, daven that sin should stop. Once sin stops, there won't be any Risham anymore. Ella, she said the following, daven for them, that they should do tshuva. And if you do that, there won't be Risham anymore. So he davened for them, he davened for mercy for them, v'hadru b'tshuva, and they did tshuva. Okay, a very interesting Gemara. We have this machlokes between Bruryah and Reb Meir. Reb Meir originally davened that the wicked should die. Bruryah said it doesn't say yitamu chaitim in haaretz, it says yitamu chataim in haaretz. Yitamu chataim in haaretz means you should daven that sin should stop. How should you daven sin should stop? Daven that they should do tshuva. Daven that they should do tshuva. So he davened that they should do tshuva, and in fact they did tshuva. There's a lot on this Gemara. Very important things. And you have a lot of questions. Wait till the end. Hold off. Let me speak my piece. First, look at the Goya Nashas. Rabbi Kiva Eger brings down over here. He says, look in the Gemara and Tainis Adaf Chav Gimel Amud Beis. So if Rabbi Kiva Eger tells us to do something, the smartest thing we could do is we should listen to him. So the Gemara and Tainis Adaf Chav Gimel Amud Beis brings down a story. You ready for the story? The story is about a man by the name of Abba Chilkiah. Abba Chilkiah was a very righteous man. He was the grandson of Choni HaMagal. And when the world needed rain, the Rabbanan used to come to him and asked him to daven that there should be rain. And the Gemara says that he had a lot of very interesting practices. They came to his house, they didn't find him. They went out to the field, they found him. He was working in the field. They said hello to him, he didn't greet them. The Gemara says because he was working. If you're working, you can't stop to do your personal business. If you're getting paid by the hour, you can't make personal phone calls. You can't respond to a conversation. You're a hired worker. And the Gemara goes on to say that ultimately the Rabbanan came to him. They said, we came to ask you to daven for the rain. So he said, me? What am I? I'm nothing. I don't have powerful tefillos. So what happened? So he said, sorry, in the meantime, when the Rabbanan were not looking, he went up to the roof and he davened together with his wife that the rain should fall. Okay? The Gemara says that the cloud of rain came to the side that his wife was, not to the side that he was. In other words, to show that Hashem was responding to her tefillah and not to his tefillah. So the Chachamim, after they realized that it was the tefillos of Abba Chilkiah that brought the rain, the Rabbanan asked him, why did Hashem respond to her tefillos more than your tefillos? Why are her tefillos more effective than your tefillos? So the Gemara in Daf Chav Gimel says the following. Number one, he said, you know why Hashem is responding to her tefillos? Because when an ani comes to me, I give the ani money. I give the ani money. The ani then has to go take the money to the store and buy a bagel and cream cheese and egg salad. But until the ani gets benefit from my tzedakah, it takes time. My wife, when the ani comes, she gives him a bagel with cream cheese and egg salad. So the ani gets immediate benefit from my wife's tzedakah, and from my tzedakah, the ani doesn't get immediate benefit, and therefore Hashem responded first to my wife. Or the Gemara says the following. Listen to this. The Gemara says, Inami, or you could say, Hanu Biryoni Dahava B'Shivavusan. There were certain bandits in the neighborhood. Ano Ba'iracha Me'dilamesu, I daven they should die. V'hi Ba'iracha Me'dilahadra B'tiyofta, and she asked for mercy that they should do tshuva. And since she's doing the right thing, since she's davening that they should do tshuva, and I'm davening that they should die, so Hashem is responding quicker to her than to me. So seemingly what Rabbi Kiva is bothered by is that the following, and this is what the Shagas Aryeh asked the Ferish, and that is, who lived first, Abba Chilkiah or Rabbi Meir? Abba Chilkiah lived well before Rabbi Meir. In the times of Chaniah, he's the grandson of Chaniah Magal. So why didn't Rabbi Meir learn from the fact that the cloud appeared over the tefillos of Abba Chilkiah's wife and not over Abba Chilkiah, that her practice is more correct than his practice? That it's better to daven that someone does tshuva than to daven that they should die. Why didn't Rabbi Meir learn from what happened with Abba Chilkiah? After all, Abba Chilkiah came first. That's seemingly what Rabbi Kiva is bothered by, and that is exactly what the Shagas Aryeh asks. To which the Shagas Aryeh answers the following. And by the way, just to point out, Rabbi Kiva brings down, look at the Zohar HaKadosh in this week's Parsha. So if you look it up, I'll read to you the words of the Zohar. Amar Rebbe, Mitzvah loy la'adam lehispalel al harashayim kedei sheyachziru lemutav. It's a mitzvah for a person to daven that Rishayim do tshuva v'lo yikansu legehenim, and that they don't enter Gehenim. So the question is, first of all, why didn't Rav Meir learn from what happened to Abba Chilkiah? And why didn't Rav Meir follow the advice of the Zohar? Says the Shagas Aryeh. You ready for this? Number one, he says it could be that Abba Chilkiah didn't know the story. That Rav Meir was not familiar with the story of Abba Chilkiah. The Gemara had not been written down. He didn't know that story. There are no newspapers that you could read everybody's little maisalach. He didn't know it. Or he may have held the reason why Hashem responded quicker to Abba Chilkiah's wife is because Abba Chilkiah's wife gave better tzedakah than him, but maybe not because that she davened better than him. Or he gives an amazing answer. What's the answer? He says like this. Ready? You ready for this? He says, in the neighborhood of Reb Meir, these Rishon were bothering Reb Meir. In the times of Abba Chilkiah, it doesn't say they were bothering Abba Chilkiah. So now Abba Chilkiah should daven that they should do tshuva. But now you're bothering a Talmud Chacham. Yichayiv Misa. In fact, the Shagas Aryeh brings down the Gemara Kedushin, that if you don't stand up for a Talmud Chacham, you're called a Rasha, and you won't live long. So Reb Meir held, anyway they're going to die. Anyway they're going to die. So I'm not doing anything wrong by davening they should die, because anyway that's what they deserve.
But should you daven for something that you know is going to happen?
So that's what the Shagas Aryeh says. Since it was inevitable, since it was coming anyway, and they were disturbing him, because even not for showing kavod for a Talmud Chacham, a person's chayim is, so all the more so if someone bothers a Talmud Chacham. So therefore Reb Meir held that what happened in the time of Abba Chilkiah has no bearing on what's happening today. Because now they're bothering me. So they're bothering me, they have to leave. They have to be, we got to get rid of them. Very interesting.
May I ask, what does bothering mean?
I'll let you know. What does it mean?
No, is it like, I don't know. What's the level of bothering? Harassing? Or,
yeah. That's what the Shagas Aryeh says. We're just getting started here. Okay? That's what the Shagas Aryeh says. First, let's look at the Gemara. The Gemara says that Bruryah said, it doesn't say Yitamu Chaitim in Haaretz, that sinners should banish. It says Chata'im. So all the Achronim ask, every single time you want to say sinner in Tanakh, you never say choitim. You say chatoim. Right? Suruna by Korach. Me'ole ha'anoshim ha'chatoim ha'ela. That means the word chatoim refers to sinners. Doesn't refer to sin. It refers to sinners. Let's look through Tehillim. Oh, the first pasuk. Look at that. Ashrei ha'yish ashaloi halach b'atzas v'sham u'v'derech chatoim lo yamad. They don't stand in the path of the chatoim, of the sinners. So we see sinners could be called chatoim. That's the question of the Marsha and the Nesivos HaMishpat. Okay, the Nesivos wrote a commentary on the Agada of Berachos called Emes L'Yakov. So what's the Gemara say? Oh, it doesn't say choitim, it says chatoim. Chatoim means sinners. So he asks, he takes the following angle. Okay, hold on to that question for a minute. Now we're going to get to another question. This is the question of the Marsha. This is one of the most famous questions in all the writings of the Marsha. I remember I learned this maybe a very, very long time ago. It's something I always think about. The Marsha asks the following question. Marsha asks, how could you daven for somebody to do tshuva? How could you daven for someone to do tshuva? There's a concept. Hakol b'dei shamayim, chutz miyur shamayim. Everything is in the hand of God except for fear of God. I'm going to daven that you should do tshuva. I could daven for you to find a job. I could daven for you to have atzlacha because that's in the hands of Hashem. But yeah, I'm going to daven that a person should do tshuva. Hashem says that's not my department. Every human being has free choice. Everybody has to choose whether they're going to do right or wrong. You can't daven for someone to do tshuva. So the Marsha asks, so then how could you daven for you yourself to do tshuva? Right? A person says, Hashem, help me do tshuva. Right? Imagine a guy. He's doing averos. He's doing terrible things. He says, Hashem, bring me back on the right path. So Hashem should say, it's not my department. Get out. What are you davening? Yeah, how can you daven Shemona Esrei, help me do tshuva? Hashem should say, you want to daven that you should make money? Fine. You want to daven that Mashiach should come? These are all things that are my department, Hashem says. I bring Mashiach, I give you money, I don't make you do tshuva. You got to do tshuva, right? You're saying, Hashem, help me come to Shachris. Hashem says, set your alarm clock. You go to Shachris. It's your problem. It's not my problem. If you're not doing the right thing, what are you asking Hashem? Marsha asks that question. Marsha asks, how could you daven that you yourself should do tshuva? So Marsha says, yeah, take a look. Take a look inside. Very important Marsha. Marsha says like this. Marsha says, on Daf Yodam and Aleph, he says, V'yesh la'ayin v'zeh. Devadai ba'adam ha'mevakesh rachamim al atzmai la'achziroi b'tshuva nicha. I understand that a person could daven, that he himself could do tshuva. Even though everything is in the hand of heaven except for fear of God. But we have a Gemara in Makos that says, in the path that you want to take, they lead you. Which means that in life, whatever direction you want to take, God leads you on that path. Or we have a principle. Someone who wants to purify himself, they help him. So someone who comes to Rebbe Shalom and davens, Hashem, help me do tshuva. What you're doing is, you're choosing your path in life, you're selecting your path in life, and thereby Hashem will continue to guide you on that path. In other words, what do you mean? How can Hashem interfere with your bechira? He's not interfering with your bechira. By you davening, Hashem, bring me to tshuva, you're saying, Hashem, I have selected the path of tshuva. I want to be mataher myself. And then Hashem will go ahead and lead you along that path. But it's not interfering with your bechira. However, says the Marsha, for you to daven that someone else should do tshuva? He says, how is your tefillah going to help? The Marsha answers, he doesn't answer this question. It's a pella. Marsha says, I don't understand how a person could daven that another person should do the right thing. Beats me. He doesn't give an answer. How am I going to daven? How could I daven that you should do tshuva? That you shouldn't talk about Chazar Sashatz? You want to talk about Chazar Sashatz and forfeit all your davening? That's your problem. Well, there's nothing I could do about it. Nothing I could do about it. Wait, I'm going to daven that Hashem should make you a tzaddik? That's a different religion. God doesn't interfere with Bechira. How could you daven for someone else to do tshuva? That's the question of the Marsha. That is the question of Marsha.
Well, maybe Musar is, giving somebody Musar is.
You're davening that God should make him do the right thing. How can Hashem make him do the right thing?
Aren't you responsible for another too? And not to change.
Yeah, you're responsible to make care of him. But God, what are you going to ask Hashem to do? Hashem doesn't get involved.
You're saying everything answered by the praying.
Yeah,
Praying maybe,
except, right, exactly. Everything except for this. Because Hashem doesn't control it. What am I going to daven? Hashem, please make Yankel do tshuva. Let me Yankel.
Everything.
No, he doesn't control everything. He doesn't. Chutz Meir Shemaim. God does not control it. So how could you daven for another person to do tshuva? Beyond Hashem. By the way, the concept of Hashem said 10 statements. He created 10 things. In the 10th statement, when He made man, Hashem withdrew from man. He says, man, you're in charge of your own destiny. From there, Rav Hutner says, we derive the concept of Meiser. That you see, Hashem made 10 statements when He created the world. The 10th statement, Hashem said, I give that away. I give that away. I'm not in charge of man. Man has to control his own destiny. God doesn't make a person do tshuva. Yeah, you see somebody on the wrong path, you're going to daven? How's that going to help? That's the question of the Marsha. So the Nesivos comes along and says, that let's think a little bit for a minute. Why are sinners called chata'im? If in fact they're chaitim, people who are sinners, chata'im means sin. Why are sinners, people who do averos, called chata'im? Why do we call them sin? We should call them chaitim. In other words, grammatically, right, the word chaitim are those who do averos, and chata'im are averos. So why are we calling sinners averos? It's interesting, you look into Tehillim, David HaMelech says about himself, Va'ani tefillah, and I am prayer. What do you mean you're prayer? You're not prayer, you're someone who prays. You're not prayer. How could David HaMelech say, Va'ani tefillah, I'm prayer? Or David HaMelech says, Ani shalom. No, you're not peace. Why doesn't David say, Ani is shalom? I'm a man of peace. So what we see from here is that a person could become so inextricably bound with a certain conduct that he personifies it. David HaMelech says, I pray so much that I'm not a man who prays, I am prayer. I pursue peace so much that I'm not a person who pursues peace, I am peace. Ani tefillah, ani shalom. On the other extreme, you can have people who are so wicked that they don't just do sin, they are sin. They are synonymous with sin. They personify sin. So what Bruryah is telling Reb Meir is that the only time David HaMelech davened that sinners should banish is only if they've reached the level that we call them chata'im, where they're so inextricably bound with averos, they personify sin. That's what David davened, yitamu chata'im. But if they haven't reached that level yet, if they're only bar yonim, if they're only people who do averos, we don't find David HaMelech davened that they should banish. So in other words, it's not that the fact it says chata'im and it doesn't say chaitim. It doesn't usually say chaitim. What she's saying is, David only davened for sinners to banish if they've reached the level where the verb now becomes the noun. Where the chaitim, sinners, become the personification of sin. But if they have not yet reached this level, don't daven that they should die. Says Li Emes Liakov, another thought. So how could you daven for someone else to do tshuva? He says like this. Sometimes people do averos, not because they've necessarily chosen to sin, but because they're sick. Why are they sick? Their nature, their personality is such that they are very inclined to do an avera. They're naturally very angry. They're naturally very stubborn. They're naturally very physical beings. So the same way you could be physically ill, and you could daven for a person, Hashem, heal this person, the nefesh could be spiritually ill, in that their soul is very inclined to do averos. So you're not davening them to select, to make a free choice. You're davening for their nefesh to be healed so that they're on an equal playing field.
Where are Am Haaretz from?
Ami Haaretz, people who don't know any better?
No, better, right.
Okay, we'll assume that they're not called Rishayim. But and Am Haaretz is somebody, we're not discussing Am Haaretz. We're discussing Baryonim, we're discussing Minim, we're discussing Rishayim. Okay? But that's how, in other words, how do we answer Marsha's question? How do you daven for someone else to do tshuva? You can't daven Hashem. This guy, he's 90, he's on the wrong path. Bring him back on the right path. Bring him back on the right path. It's not in Hashem's department. The guy has to make his own, he's a grown man, he has to make his own choice in life. But Hashem could sort of heal the neshama in a sense where he's not as inclined to sin and now he's able to make a reasonable choice. That is what the Nesivos answers the question. Which again, the question, in most cases, this is a very big chiddush. I think most people think, yeah, let's daven for people to do tshuva, let's daven for this person to be on the right path. According to the Marsha, according to Emes Yaakov, only in very limited circumstances. Chazon Ish, though, Chazon Ish writes, at the end of Orach Chaim, no, you could daven for someone else to do tshuva. The same way, you could daven for yourself to do tshuva. Why can I daven for myself to do tshuva? Because v'derech she'adam roitza leilech ma'lichan oisai. I could say, Hashem, I want to do tshuva. So if that's what I want, that's the path I'm choosing. I could choose for you. How could I choose for you? Because we're all one. We're all one unit. I'm the hand, you're the elbow, he's the stomach, the other guy's the foot. We're all one unit. So I'm not choosing for someone, I'm choosing for myself. You're a part of me. Like, what's your name?
Shimon.
Like Reb Shimon was saying. That Akal Yisrael Revim Zelazeh, we're all responsible for each other. So if I'm responsible for you, so I could choose for you. I could choose for you. Okay. Fine. That is that. By the way, the Vilna Gaon understands that the word Chata'im is Lashon Piel, and not you're davening for sin to stop, but Chata'im means that which causes sin. You're davening for the end of the Yetzer Hara. You're davening for the end of the Yetzer Hara.
Chachamim ended the Yetzer Hara for...
So yeah, right. Just like the Anshe Knesset like daven that the Yetzer Hara should be abolished, you could daven that Hashem should mitigate the Yetzer Hara.
In the time of Yochanan and Zakah,
Yeah.
he had problem with the Berachos.
Yeah.
He called his nephew. It looks like it didn't help.
No, right.
So I had to make a decision to get out. He saw it's not going to help them. He cannot convince them that they should change. He was stuck one way. He couldn't convince the Berachos. His own nephew he couldn't do it. It was sometimes it's hard to convince the Berachos. They're so stubborn. I can't do this.
So now, but let's talk about Bisman Hazeh. You have people who are Rishon. What do? Do you daven that they do tshuva? Do you daven that they leave, they die? You have people making trouble in a yeshiva, in a shul. Do you try to draw them close, or do you send them away? What do you do, Lamaisa?
It's better to bring him close.
It's better to bring them, right?
Right?
Maybe not. Let's see.
You can always change your mind.
Let's see. The Gemara says in Maseches Sanhedrin, an almost identical story. On Daf Lamed Zayin. You ready for this? The Gemara says, Hanu bar Yoneh dehava b'shevavusa de Reb Zera. There were bandits in Reb Zera's neighborhood. Dehava makarav lahu. Reb Zera was makarav them. He was a kira professional. He brought them close. Ki heichi dinahajilu b'tiyufta, so that they should do tshuva. V'havu kapti Rabbanon, and the Rabbanon disagreed and they said, you're doing the wrong thing. You don't go to Rishon and bring them back in tshuva. That's the Gemara. Reb Zera tried to bring them back in tshuva. The Rabbanon were angry at Reb Zera. Yachid v'rabim, halacha, karabim. Right, very good. I have a very simple question for you. The 19th bracha of Shemona Esrei is V'la malshinim al tihi sikva. Slanderers against the Jewish people should have no hope. V'chol harisha, all wickedness, kerega tevim. V'chol oyevecha, nehera yikaris. V'hazedim, those who act intentionally. Meheira, se'aker, u'se'shaber, u'se'mager, v'sachniya, v'mheira, v'yamin. So here you have a guy. He's disturbing the yeshiva. He's disturbing the shul. Why are we davening that they should immediately dissipate? Why don't we daven? Let them do tshuva. Very, very strong question. Why is the Shemona Esrei not like Bruryah? Doesn't it seem like Anshe Knesset Agdala, after this whole discussion over here between Bruryah and Reb Meir, and Reb Meir agreed to Bruryah. Reb Meir agreed, yeah, don't daven that they should die, daven that they should do tshuva. It seems like the Gemara Berachos is coming out. It's always better to daven that Risham should do tshuva. That's what the Zayar says, and yet that's not what we do. We daven Rishayim should leave immediately, and we say don't. It's the only bracha in Shemona Esrei where we say the word Meheira 3 times. We don't even say Hashem. V'Yerushalayim Mircha v'Meheira Barachmim Tashav v'Sishkain Meheira. No, we don't daven Mashiach should come Meheira. We don't daven David HaMelech should show up Meheira. We don't daven for Parnasa Meheira, but we daven Risham should dissipate. Why don't we daven they should do tshuva? This Gemara says we should daven that they should do tshuva. However, if you look at the very next Gemara, we have a Gemara where David HaMelech is constantly davening for the downfall of the wicked. So how do we deal with this? We have a very simple Gemara where Bruryah is telling Reb Meir what to do. And presumably Reb Meir is listening. And yet the Gemara in Sanhedrin said that Reb Zera went out to be Makare of these people, and the Chachamim disagreed with him. So it almost seems like our Gemara is paskening like the Gemara in Sanhedrin and not like the Gemara in Berachos. The Gemara in Berachos says, daven, wicked people should do tshuva. The Gemara in Sanhedrin says, when Reb Zera went to be Makar of them, the Rabbanan said, you're doing the wrong thing. So now this question, this contradiction is asked, I found last night, very late at night, the Sefer Divrei Torah from Munkach. Okay? He asked this contradiction. I don't think it's a contradiction. To go out and be Makarev Rishayim, to actively go out of your circles to people who not are unlearned, who know and are acting intentionally, that's not the right thing to do. Not the right thing to do. It's not going to accomplish anything. But you can always daven. The fact that this Gemara says you should daven for them to do tshuva, of course you should daven. Why not? But to go and be makar of them, no, you're makar of people who don't know, not people who act intentionally wrong. Right? You have to know. People, kirov, right? Kirov. No, you have to know when to do it. Right? Yeah, it has to be guided by the dictates of halacha. So what the Gemara is saying is Reb Zera felt you always do kirov, but we don't paskin that way. Not people who act intentionally.
They're called a
Someone who's lahach, someone who asks, b'mezid. To daven? Davening is differently. But still, we're not answering the question because we don't daven that way. We don't daven. We daven that Rishayim should dissipate. Yeah, so what we should daven for him to do tshuva? So someone once asked Reb Meir this question. He said, why don't we daven that they should do tshuva? Reb said, what, you think he's going to do tshuva overnight? Tshuva is a long process. In the meantime, he needs to leave. He's not going to do tshuva. How many people in history did tshuva b'rega achas, b'sha achas? In the meantime, he needs to be out of the yeshiva and out of the shul. The meheira, it's the quickest thing. Now, but the question is, but Reb Meir agreed to Bruryah. Reb Meir agreed to Bruryah.
Once he asks this question, I'm probably going to be wife tells you to do something afterwards.
It might be correct. The Munkach Rebbe has the most astounding piece I have ever seen. He quotes this Gemara in Berachos, and then he asks that the Gemara, the immediately next Gemara, talks about how David constantly daven, that the Risham should have a downfall. You ready for this? Elavadai pashut. It is certain. We don't pay attention to a woman. We don't pay. Bruryah, she's very learned. She's very wonderful. And we could praise her. She learned 300 halachas, so 300 chachamim. But when it comes to acting lamaisa, we don't listen to her. She's a woman. Why didn't the Gemara say? Why didn't the Gemara say we don't paskin like Bruryah? We don't have to say that. It's obvious. It's obvious.
They don't want to stop.
Women, no, we're not. This is not derogatory. This is l'shvacham. This is a praise that in the realm of strict halacha, we have to follow a certain process. But the Zohar says that you have to daven for them to do tshuva. Yes, Kabbalistically speaking, we daven for them to do tshuva. Practically speaking, we daven for them to leave. And I'll explain what I mean. Like the Gemara says in Yuma, Ein chachma leisha ela bepelech. Women have wisdom when it comes to domestic activities. But when it comes to halacha, we don't listen to them, even for a woman like Bruryah. And even though when the Chachamim said, Noshim daita and kalos, Bruryah disagreed, we don't listen to her about that either. We don't listen to her about that. Who do we listen to? He says we follow the Gemara Masechta Sanhedrin that Reb Zera went to be Makari of the Rishayim and the Chachamim disagreed with him. That this is not the halachic response. But what do you mean the Zohar says this is how you have to daven? And so now I'll ask you a question. Ad kan divrei Torah. Okay, an amazing piece where he basically says that even though the Gemara in Berachos comes out that that you should daven, that Rishon should do tshuva, the Gemara in Sanhedrin disagrees, and we don't follow the Gemara in Berachos. We follow the Gemara in Sanhedrin. Why doesn't the Gemara have to make a statement? We paskin like Sanhedrin and we don't paskin like Berachos. The answer is because it's obvious that Bruryah, as great as she was not a Talmud Chacham. It's not a Talmud Chacham. You can have great avodim like Tavi, the Eved of Ram Gamliel. There's certain criteria to be allowed to be involved in the halachic process. Yeah, but Reb Meir agreed to her, and Reb Meir was the Gadol Adar.
I want the Shiurim base.
So I want to suggest the following. The Gemara says in Erevin, we'll start this way. There was a big dispute once upon a time between Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld and the chief rabbi, Rav Kook, about how to view the secular Zionists who are going into Eretz Yisrael. Rav Kook held we need to draw them close, we need to be makar of them, we need to bring out what he called the sparks of Kedusha. Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld says we don't deal with them. We don't deal with them. They're antagonistic to the Torah, they don't believe in the Torah. We don't sit on the same boards. We don't sit on the same councils. We don't deal with them. There's a big machlokes. Rav Kook himself acknowledged that he was duped by them. Right? He was invited to speak at the opening of Hebrew University, and he said he can't go. They have Bible criticism. And Weitzman tricked him. Weitzman said, no, we're not going to have that. And Rav Kook felt bad that they tricked him, and he went. The Ger Rebbe came in to try to make shalom. The Ger Rebbe came in. And he was able to make a certain degree of shalom, but he said the following, that even though what Rav Kook is saying has a degree of truth, that these people do have sparks of Kedusha, and they are Yidden, but it's begeder what the Gemara says in Erevin about Rav Meir. What did the Gemara say about Rav Meir? The Gemara said about Rav Meir that Haya ha'olam, one second, he said like this, everybody knows that Rav Meir was the greatest sage in the generation. Why is the halacha not like Rav Meir? We can't really understand what he's saying. In other words, Rav Meir has a degree of understanding that's so lofty that we can't understand it in this physical world of reality. In other words, Rav Kook, maybe these people do have elements of Kedusha, but on this world in Olam Hazeh, we can't deal with them. We can't deal with them. What does that mean? What that means is there's attitude and there's policy. In your heart of hearts, you should daven Risham should do tshuva. In your heart of hearts, you should want to draw them close. But as a matter of public policy, the correct conduct is they can't be with us. The Zayar, right? The Zayar says you should daven for them to do tshuva, but we don't paskin like the Zayar. We paskin like Shas. But what do you mean? Rav Meir agreed to Bruryah. Rav Meir agreed to Bruryah. That's Rav Meir. Rav Meir was someone who we don't follow in halacha because he was so spiritual. Like the Gemara says about Rav Meir, that Rav Meir was able to read the Torah Baal Peh because the Torah was written on his heart. Rav Meir was almost on the level of Adam HaRishon before the sin. In Rav Meir's Sefer Torah, it had different letters than in our Sefer Torah. It said Kasnois Ar with an Aleph, not Kasnois Ar with an Ayin. Rav Meir understood maybe the potential of these Rishon, the Kabbalistic sparks in these Rishon. But as a matter of policy, we don't follow this Gemara, what Bruryah is saying. We don't follow what Meir is saying. We follow what the Anshe Knesset Hagdolah enacted in our public tefillos, that the Rishon should disappear. It doesn't mean in your private tefillos, in your heart of hearts, you shouldn't daven that the Rishon should do tshuva. But there's something called policy, there's Kabbalah, and there's halacha. And who do we follow when there's a stira? The answer is it's not a stira. There's a realm of philosophy and there's a realm of action. In the realm of action, Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld said, Rav Kook, if Mashiach would come, will be the Kohen Gadol, but he won't be the chief rabbi of Jerusalem. Because the Kohen Gadol is someone whose heart overflows with love for Jews. But as a matter of public, he can't be the rabbi. He can't set public policy. Public policy is different. A lot of people have good hearts. Good heart is wonderful, but it doesn't dictate policy. There's something called halacha, and there's something called Kabbalah. So I believe, the way I understand it, and the way I believe the Sefer Divrei Torah is explaining it, is that Bruryah is speaking to Reb Meir. He's saying, Reb Meir, you're a private citizen. We're not following you in halacha. The Chachamim are not following you. You want to know how to daven? You daven that they should do tshuva. But in terms of how we enact a public policy, Shemona Esrei, the Rishayim should disappear immediately. But the Zayar says we daven that they should do tshuva. Yes. In your heart of hearts, when you're saying private Tehillim and you're davening privately, you daven they should do tshuva. But as a matter of public policy, you can't deal with them. Aya b'chilki his wife. So that the Shagas Aryeh says it could be that we paskin for the other reason. And I would tell you, I thought about that last night also. I would say, Loi Bashamayim. The fact that the Shechina went, yes, Midas Harachamim agrees. Midas Harachamim agrees you down for them to do tshuva. But it doesn't mean Abba Chilkiah did the wrong thing. Abba Chilkiah, as the wife of the Talmud Chacham, you down for them to do tshuva. As the Talmud Chacham, public policy is different. Very interesting approach. Okay, we'll hold it over.
Can I ask you a quick question?
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.